Hello everyone. It was a Big E sized Raw talk, big enough for a new WWE champion, with 4 different interviews. Let's get right into it. I'm Casualeann, come with me. So Big E is the new WWE champion. The voice of the New Day's announcements cashed in on a hobbling Bobby Lashley successfully and was declared WWE champion. Now the cash in is something that he announced on social media and people were absolutely salivating to see it happen. I'll put aside my criticism of announced cash ins. That's well documented, but this was actually good, so people had the opportunity to tune in to see it. Our hosts are Kayla Braxton and Matt Camp, who are absolutely elated about this, and they announced the new WWE champion will be joining Raw Talk this evening. They give some headlines after that. Damian Priest defeated Jeff Hardy for the US Championship. Camp and Braxton highlight how Jeff Hardy is one of Damian Priest's idols. And Alexa Bliss, in anticipation of the Raw Women's Championship match with Charlotte Flair at Extreme Rules, gifts Charlotte a most flattering doll, Miss Charlie. In 8-man tag team action, AJ and Omos plus Mace and T-Bar defeat the New Day plus Mustafa Ali and Mansoor, with Omos kind of swatting away all the adversaries like so many bumblebees. Randy Orton was defeated by Bobby Lashley for Bobby to momentarily retain the WWE title prior to the cash-in. And Matt Camp charges Randy Orton to refocus, especially in the challenge of all of these various tag teams. AJ Styles and Omos are with Kevin Patrick, as Patrick himself put it. AJ has a problem with this. It's Patrick that's with the two of them. Okay. Patrick's curious about the 8-man tag team victory. He asks how they're feeling. AJ says, "My own personal Colossus took care of business." And he lets everyone know that nobody can stop him. Now I still shudder just a little bit, just a tiny bit, when Omos is called AJ's own personal Colossus, almost kind of like AJ owns him, and Omos's roaring doesn't really help with that, but I won't get into all of that here. So Kevin Patrick asks if AJ's ever seen anyone this young, this powerful. AJ says no, and that there's even more to come. Lastly, Kevin requests a message for the tag team champions. AJ warns RK Bro should give those belts some love while they can, because AJ and Omos are taking them back soon. So Kevin's like, "Oh, I'll just get out of your hair then." Like he had suddenly got shaken by Omos's size, which was strange because neither AJ or Omos did anything even mildly aggressive to Patrick. It was weird. Omos even said please afterwards, which AJ says he never says. Now after that, AJ, tells Patrick to kind of, get out of here, beat. And Patrick runs off. It was good. AJ and Omos play off each other well. It's much like the promo equivalent of their matches. AJ does most of the heavy lifting, and Omos comes in off of rhetorical hot tag for a short but imposing statement. That's it. They move to the women's tag team title picture. Super Brutality are victorious over their respective opponents in singles competition, despite them announcing the wrong person as the winner in Nikki ASH and Tamina's match, and playing Tamina's music afterwards. Rhea beat Natalya. It looked like her tooth may have actually been hurt. And Nikki is a little bit more of a tweener in her actions than a straight babyface. She's interfering, but the argument can be made that she's kind of watching out for her partner, Rhea Ripley, and just trying to keep Natalya herself from cheating. Braxton asks if it'll actually be enough to unseat the current champions, Natalya and Tamina. And Camp points out that Natalya and Tamina aren't this kind of huge establishment tag team. They're champions for right now, but it seems that Shotzi and Nox have their number. And that was a great thing to hang out there, something to talk about. And he ultimately says that the champions need to get their act together. They go back to Damian Priest knocking off Jeff Hardy, and Sheamus comes around knocking both Priest and Hardy around. Kevin Patrick is with Damian Priest, and I was pleasantly surprised about this because it's exceptionally rare that anyone appears 2 weeks in a row on Raw Talk. Even when Drew was there a lot, he would be there kind of every other week, and if you're gonna have a repeat, someone like Priest is the right man to go with because he's still entertaining. You won't get tired of him. Kevin Patrick asks, why an open championship challenge? Priest answers, just to prove himself, to show that he's actually earned this championship. And you can tell how awestruck with respect he is in speaking about Jeff Hardy. He calls it an honor to have a match with him. Patrick notes that Sheamus was on commentary, but Priest had his say at the end with his own rogue kick. Now Priest acknowledges that he has Sheamus's number, and Sheamus is going to realize that. He's going to hit the lights for a reckoning and a 1-2-3, which is the name of his finisher, by the way. Is it the reckoning? Is it still hit the lights? Is it both? Again, Kevin wants to go out with him. They've been pushing this for a while. And he tries to kind of lead into it by saying he knows some great Irish pubs. They're in Boston. He lets Priest know this, and Priest is like, oh, that's great. Pats him on the chest, walks away. The beauty of continuity. I'll take it where I can get it. We get some ads, and we return with recap of the Alexa Bliss Charlotte Flair segment. Alexa appeals to Charlotte's love of gifts with an ugly AF voodoo doll. I think it's a voodoo doll. But the deadpan look on Charlotte's face was 24 karat gold, more than Charlie's hair even. And when Charlotte tosses Charlie in Alexa's face, Alexis hits her with a code red. I'm all in. Braxton and Camp note the craftiness of Alexa Bliss and the ability for her to possibly win against the Charlotte Flair. Sarah Schreiber is with Alexa and some weird rave lighting before the strobes actually start. She notes that Charlotte didn't seem particularly grateful for the gift, and Alexa's like, oh, she was very ungrateful. She notes everyone needs a friend. Lily's her best friend, and she thought Charlie could be Charlotte's best friend. But if Charlie's anything like Lily, Charlotte needs to be careful. Schreiber reminds her of this image at the end of the segment of Alexa holding the Raw Women's Championship above her head. And she asks if it's going to be a taste of what Charlotte may get at Extreme Rules. Alexa says, yep, and walks away. A short segment for sure, but it did what it needed to. Alexa is teasing a bit of Charlie's possible powers, things that could happen in a very cryptic sort of way. With that, the pair of hosts express their utter confusion at what may happen next. Kayla says, if you're going out in Boston, watch out for Charlie. And they pivot to their excitement over the new WWE champion, and they throw it to Kevin Patrick with Big E. And you can just feel the warmth and happiness amongst Braxton and Camp and Patrick also. And Kevin's like, this is 12 years in the making. This is the biggest night of your career. How do you feel about this? Big E starts about it being hard to contextualize and how it felt to have his music hit, the crowd reaction, and then his peers, the New Day, being with him, and they pop up congratulating him. And he says all of this support, all of it just means the world to him. Now Kevin's seeing Woods flanking Big E. He points out that Woods must be proud of him. And Woods is like, yeah. He talks about how long Big E has been fighting and how natural that belt looks. He said how it sits on his meat. And E says that's why he built it. They move to Kofi. He's, of course, kind of the elder statesman of the group who can still run and gun, mind you. And he talks about Big E's hard work, how happy it is, and that it's not the end necessarily. It's just the beginning. Big E's got a couple more comments. He's appreciative of what it takes to be at the top of your craft, but to get to do it with your best friends, oh, that's even better. And he talks about how hard they fought just to get on television and how he's had the opportunity to grow because of the New Day. Now it taking such a long time makes what's happened feel earned. He says even as he's about to give up the ghost as an old man, he's going to think about how he won the title as a young man with his friends. Patrick asks, how did it feel to have everyone congratulate you? He responds that it's just the cherry on top. It's amazing to have his peers on his side all of this time. And he name drops some different brands. He mentions Raw, he mentions SmackDown, NXT, NXT UK. He appreciates it. And with that, the New Day introduce him in extravagant fashion. And I'll leave it to you to look it up. Camp talks about them being broken up in the draft and how Big E went at it alone. And as soon as he won, the New Day were right back with him. He says he's made the WWE proud. Matt calls him a quality human being and that he'll be on WWE's The Bump. So initially I said I was absolutely overjoyed and needed to look back over this because it was so amazing that I didn't let everything soak in. And so I did do that. And not only does this kind of represent a new champion, but it's also the reunion of the New Day itself, which is going to be interesting in and of itself, especially with the Bloodline and this kind of epic 6-man tag match that's going to happen this evening. So now I'm going to give my take on the cash-in happening as it did. Now, quick disclaimer, this has absolutely zero to do with how much this man deserves this and has earned the chance to carry the Raw brand on his massive shoulders. This is about what and how it happened and kind of the greater context. So just in my humble personal opinion, I was actually enjoying him being Mr. Money in the Bank. He worked it, just being in different places, just wanting to be around, being where people may not want him. I talk about that in the Talking Smack review. Being just in the closet when they're about to start their day and popping out. You know, all of that was magic. He had the briefcase stolen. He won it back for some strange reason. He was both happy and disturbing to the locker room, regularly torturing the special counsel for the Universal Champion. I don't understand why they couldn't have let that breathe for one more month, or maybe even 2 or 3. They are notorious for not letting their Money in the Bank contract holders lean into that role. They always have to cash in really, really quickly. You could have made Mr. Money in the Bank essentially just below what would be a 3rd top title. To have any champion be actively unsettled just to see him coming and for him to appear more on both the brands. Now, other than AEW and Monday Night Football, what was the rush to this? How about WWE be WWE, albeit a better version of it? Just like AEW is AEW, and stop worrying about them so much. Be a good show and people will watch. I know Bobby Lashley was supposed to lose at WrestleMania to Drew McIntyre, but it took nearly 20 years for the man to become champion. And he had his first reign ended in less than 6 months. He didn't win on a pay-per-view. He didn't lose on a pay-per-view. All of it happened on television. And the entirety of it, I just find a little unfortunate. But I will say that generally WWE is doing better. As of February this year, there were exactly 4 black champions in the entire history of WWF/E. The first being The Rock, who is also half Samoan. They've upped that number by a 1/3 in the course of 7 months. So while it shouldn't have taken this long, WWE is doing better on that particular pebble of the shore. They've still got some serious issues, but I will give them credit for that. I was kind of procrastinating extra because I knew I wasn't as singularly minded in my excitement about the cash-in as a lot of other people were. But again, none of these reasons have anything to do with Big E himself. His reputation is deservedly stellar. He did deserve this. And seeing Xavier and Kofi at his side was breathtaking. But I just thought it was a little early, and the cash-in should have had more significance than kind of a ratings pop because AEW beat WWE and Monday Night Football is back. But perhaps in the long run, Creative and E will build that significance. That's certainly my hope. But my rating for Raw Talk is 5 out of 5. Shock of the century. Top to bottom, it was an excellent show. Great segments all around. Must-watch segment, who else? New Day christened the new champ as only they could. And we see in this segment that E is moving from contract holder to champion. And with that move, this kind of silly, serious balance is shifting just a little bit in the direction of serious. And I think that's something that needs to happen. Big E doesn't have to be bland. He never will be, but he is deserving, and being taken seriously is part of the preservation of what he's worked so hard for. But I've run my mouth enough. What did you all think? Just all around. Big E as WWE champ, the Charlotte Alexa feud, Priest and Sheamus, the tag team titles. I want to know it all. Be sure to like, share, comment, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Tap that bell icon to make sure you get notifications for when new videos come out. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.